Just like
Thanks for the reminder. Turn my computer down. It is now 7 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started. We'll call the Johnston City Council meeting number 25-10 to order. Cindy, roll call, please.
Councilmember Cope.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Ready.
Here.
Burkhart.
Here.
Next item on the agenda is to welcome everyone in the audience. If you're here for an item that is on the agenda, we would ask for you to wait for that item to come up. If you're here for an item that is not on the agenda, there will be an opportunity to address the council under public communications. The next item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. And Cindy, have we ever had you lead us?
I'm happy to do it.
You're the youngest one in the room.
I am absolutely.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the agenda approval. Mike, do we have any changes to the agenda?
Staff doesn't have any changes this evening.
Council, any changes? Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Ready.
Yes.
Burkhart.
Yes.
Cope.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to public communications. We have no scheduled public communications this evening. Is there anyone in the audience, either in the room present or online, who would like to make any comments? Okay, we'll move on then to public hearings. We have two public hearings this evening. One is to conduct a public hearing on the authorization of a loan and disbursement agreement and the issuance of notes to evidence the obligation of the city thereunder, and approval of resolution number 25-134, instituting proceeding to take additional action for the authorization of a loan and disbursement agreement and issuance of not to exceed $8 million sewer revenue capital loan notes for the Little Beaver Creek Sanitary Sewer Extension, Segment B. And we'll open this public hearing at 7:02. Matt.
Good evening. Tonight's public hearing is a requirement of the SRF funding process, which is to be utilized to construct Segment B, the final portion of the sanitary sewer extension to the northwest growth area, as shown here on the map that is in the dashed black line and the solid black line between Towner and Saylorville Drive. This action is needed for authorization of a loan and disbursement agreement between the city and Iowa Finance Authority for the issuance of not to exceed $8 million in sewer revenue capital loan notes. Staff has received no public comment to date on this sanitary sewer segment B. For tonight's public hearing, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Council have any questions for Matt?
So Matt, I know like we're for the water line that we're doing, that kind of circles around Saylorville Drive and North and Beaver Drive. Does the sewer not do that? Is it just exclusively kind of on this?
Yeah, you can see.
Okay, there we go. That's what I was looking for. I was looking for a segment.
Yep, further to the south. So we kind of come up 100th, or actually, yeah, 100th Street, which is right here. We came through the Crosshaven development, and then this comes through Camp Dodge out to Towner Drive, and then we'll pick it up here. Segment C is currently being constructed, nearing completion to the lift station that's west of 141, and then Segment B will get under construction here later this month. And
So the dashed line, so the black dashed line, is that a part of segment B as well, or?
that's correct. The dash line indicates force main, and you'll have a lift station where the black circle is, and then you'll have the solid is gravity main.
Okay, so basically everything in black, whether it's solid or dash, is part of the project.
Correct.
Okay.
So Matt, can you explain why we need force main in those two areas?
Yeah, the force main, so you'll see the force main goes underneath Beaver Creek. So in order to get underneath Beaver Creek, we had, and the depths, we needed to have a lift station there at the corner of Road Drive and 110th. And then that will pump back down to the gravity main that sits there on Towner Drive back through the camp. Same thing with segment C headed to the west. You go underneath 141, but due to elevations, we're going to have, because it sits lower, that side of the road sits lower than Towner Drive. We have to pump it up into the gravity.
Sure, okay, that makes sense. Any other questions for Matt?
Quick question, Matt. So the segment B is the only one left to finish? Everything else is done?
Correct. They're finishing up segment C now. The lift station's in. Startup is scheduled for next week.
Okay. So segment 2A and the
1A and 2A are complete.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions for Matt? Is there anyone in the audience? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on this matter? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing at 7:06. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 25-134?
I move.
Second.
Motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion passed. Item 4B, conduct a public hearing to amend the budget for the year ending June 30, 2025, and consider approval of resolution number 25-144. We'll open this public hearing at 7:07.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's public hearing is for the second and final budget amendment for our current fiscal year, fiscal 25. Overview, we are increasing revenues by $4,470,000. Notably, this is from interest earned of approximately $2.3 million that was not originally budgeted for. And then local option sales tax, hotel motel tax are also higher than originally budgeted. We've also had approximately $900,000 of additional other financing sources, which includes the sale of equipment and bond proceeds that are larger than what was initially budgeted. Main item there was in budget preparation last year, we had put, I think, about 1.7 or for Crown Point bond, and then we had increased that to 2.3 by the time the bond actually came through after budget documents were initially prepared. And then for expenses, we are decreasing expenses by $3.1 million. Notably, that's $2.8 million in capital projects for projects that were initially budgeted for this year, however, will not be beginning until next fiscal year. And then $1.5 million of developer agreements. That payment was a payment to Bombers that was budgeted in fiscal 25, however, ended up being paid before June 30 of 24 last year. So those are the big notable changes, but we can go through individual department or functions of expenses if anybody has questions on individual, if we would like that level of detail.
Does anybody have questions for Sarah? The additional revenues are nice.
They are.
Any questions, council? If not, do we have anybody in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none, close this public hearing at 7:08. Do we have a motion to approve resolution number 25-144?
So, second.
Have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Ready,
Yes.
Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move.
Second.
A motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Burkhart,
Yes.
Cope,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Ready.
Yes.
Motion passed. Moving on to the non-consent agenda. Item 7A, consider approval of claims in the amount of $1,450,192.11.
I move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second discussion. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Cope?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Ready?
Yes.
Burkhart?
Yes.
Motion passed. We could set an all-time record, folks.
Don't jinx us.
It's all up to you at this point. Moving on to item 8C,
minutes.
city administrator comments.
I'm going to turn over to Dave, who is going to introduce our speaker here. We have one scheduled. It's an update on the Highway 141 Tanner Drive interchange. And our friends Wade and Jordan here only have about a 2-hour presentation.
Okay.
Short presentation to
We
give you an
have
update.
time.
Short presentation to give you an update of kind of the status of the project, where we're at through the process and funding and all that fun stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to Wade.
Great.
Do you have
Wait.
a PowerPoint?
Yeah. He didn't tell me there was a PowerPoint, wait.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, my name is Wade Griman. I work with Snyder and Associates. I've been there my entire 30-year career. I'm a transportation engineer. Please don't hold that against me. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come up here this evening and give you an update on where we're at with the Towner Interchange project. We've got a few slides here. We'll try to keep this brief so we keep enough time for questions at the end. But just to preface where we've been, in 2018, our firm was hired by the Polk County as well as the Iowa DOT to conduct a study along Iowa 141, essentially from Towner northwest to the Iowa 17 interchange in Granger. The primary resultant of that was serious consideration of closing the intersection at 121st Street, which we received a lot of feedback on. We still do today. It also included a local connector road at 110th Court, which is located just east of the 415 interchange in 141, and extending that north up to 106th Avenue. That project is currently under construction. In 2020, we were also hired by the city of Johnston, Polk County, and the Iowa DOT to conduct a second study, which stretched from 415 south to Iowa 44. So we had a little bit of an overlap on the Iowa 141 corridor from 415 to Towner. And we'll talk a little bit more detail on what the results of that study came out. But as we looked into this potential interchange project, we also took into consideration your comp plan, as well as the Grimes comp plan, which is right adjacent to you. So there's a lot of numbers, and the chart can be quite confusing, but I just want to highlight something for you. That second primary bullet where it says Iowa 141 north of Iowa 44 interchange, we'll talk about that. That's the segment of the highway that we're talking about for the interchange itself. In 2016, that stretch of the corridor carried about 25,000 vehicles a day. In 2023, that jumped up to 33,000 almost. We are projecting that it could range between 50 and 62,000 vehicles by 2050. Why the range? The MPO's model shows closer to 50,000 vehicles. Our projections based off your land use, Grimes's land use, as well as Granger and Polk City, and the projected growth that we're anticipating, we're closer to 62. We included that range within the corridor segment so that when we take a look at interchange improvements, we want to have the bookends covered. We want to make sure that we're covering worst case scenario as well as anything that might be less. In 2019 to 2023, we looked at crashes. That is a primary driver for some improvements within the corridor itself. Within that 5-year segment or time frame, at the intersections alone, I think that is a blue rectangle. I apologize, I'm colorblind. I think that's blue. But within that area, there were 47 crashes at those intersections within that study area. Of those, the 141 and 121st Street saw 20 crashes in itself, which drove the the primary purpose of closing that intersection at some point. Timberbrook and Timber Ridge saw 8 crashes over that time frame, that 5-year time frame, with 3 major injuries. And if you can envision in your mind's eye, at one of those intersections, there's a little bit of a crest of a hill that's coming from the north. If you don't time that right, that can be a the at-grade intersections saw 12 broadside, 15 rear end crashes, and 8 non-collision crashes. So those might be deer or other animals or single car crashes that happen. The segments between the intersections received 42 crashes, resulting in 13 injuries within that time frame. 1 fatality between 2019 and 23. Anytime there's a fatality, we pay close attention to what's happening within the corridor because we obviously don't want that to ever happen. As a result of that study, we did determine that some geometric improvements may be needed at those intersections to remedy that. However, when we got into the discussions with the DOT and developer on the west side at Towner, there was serious discussion about let's close some accesses and put in an interchange to help access control, safety, and help with the operations of the corridor in the future. So we came out with 2 primary purpose statements. The first one is to enhance the safety in the traveling public within the study area. The second being to support current and planned area economic growth and development. And that's not just in Johnston. You get the benefit of receiving traffic from outside the city, obviously on a regional perspective, since it is a state route. We started to develop a few alternatives. This is 5 that we took a look at. The upper left is a roundabout. So it's essentially one roundabout that's stretched out into like a peanut. The upper right is the same interchange, but we skewed it. So the right side is kicked up a little bit to the north. And the primary purpose behind skewing it is to see if there was a better fit with the geometry of the road with the proposed development on the west, as well as trying to minimize those impacts to the east side, which is the golf course. The lower left is a tighter diamond interchange. The bottom center is similar to Mills Civic Parkway down on 35 to the south, which is a single point urban interchange. And the lower right is a folded diamond. And as you can imagine, the impacts associated with the golf course there, it impacts 7 of the 9 west holes, as well as gets into their irrigation system with the ponds there. So that's almost a non-starter. We came out with a preferred alternative. If I could just back up, we're currently wrapping up a planning and environmental linkages study, which is called a PEL study. And that is the first half of our project scope with the city. The second half will be the formal NEPA study, which will dive into the environmental sensitivities within the area, make sure that we're minimizing those with the preferred alternative, and then making adjustments if we need to help further minimize those. But this skewed roundabout improves safety as it's reducing the conflict points within the interchange itself and the crossroad intersections. It supports better traffic operations. Roundabouts typically operate better than traffic signals. It reduces delays. You don't have to wait for a green or a red to turn green. And it does support those adjacent developments with the skew better. We coordinated with the developer on the west side and how that local street would work best with their plans going forward. I will say that on the east side with the golf course, this also minimizes those impacts too, because when we spoke with the golf course owner, he wanted to limit the impacts to just the number 9, which is right in that northwest corner, as well as the driving range, and this best accommodates that desire. So the project schedule, we are currently, I would say, probably about 80% complete with the PEL study document. We're planning to get that submitted into the project management team later, I'll say mid to late June in its entirety. And then shortly after that, that will go to the Department of Transportation for their formal review, and then ultimately to Federal Highway Administration for review. Once that Pell document is approved and concurrence is received, then we'll move into the NEPA study. Just to kind of tip our hat, we've already commenced all of the field work for the NEPA study. We've done a lot of the field studies that are required for cultural resources and bat habitat and so forth. So that is complete. So we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit with that NEPA document. We are hopeful that the NEPA document in itself will be a streamlined document because there simply aren't a lot of impacts associated with where this interchange is located. It's far enough away from Beaver Creek. There are some impacts to the stream a little bit with the bridge widening, but it is minimal. And then ultimately, if funding comes into play and we're successful in procuring enough funding to build the project, then construction could start as early as 2028. Speaking of funding, there's a lot of numbers here. The numbers on the right are pulled directly from the January 30th build grant application that was submitted to Federal Highway. I'll say that you'll see the total costs are estimated at $31.85 million. I'll say that's from January. Since then, we've seen bid prices kind of come down. So in the lower left, we've actually updated that cost opinion recently, and that cost opinion currently sits at about $28 million. So that's really good news. But let's just hope it stays there. So we've taken a look at different funding scenarios that fit this type of development. STBG has been procured at the level of $3.4 million for the city through the MPO. Carbon reduction program, the CRP, that's a little bit more than 1.1 that's been secured. The city of Johnston, through their pre-design agreement that you have with the Iowa DOT, that obligates you to 1.205 million. And then the Iowa Department of Transportation, same agreement, that ties them to 3.2 million to the project so far. The potential funding sources that we've identified is the community project funding. Now, if you're familiar with congressionally directed funding through Congressman Nunn's office, that was an application that was just recently submitted to him in the form of $2 million. That application also went in last year, but it didn't make the reauthorization legislation. So we're hopeful that it does this year. The build grant that I mentioned before, we applied for 15.492 million, and there's thresholds on the amount of federal aid that you can get versus local match requirements. So that's why that's kind of a non-traditional rounded number, 15.492. RISE grant, we are anticipating that any redevelopment within that area, specifically if the golf course ever redevelops based on your future land use plan, that could be RISE eligible. So we could go back to the Iowa Department of Transportation and ask for jobs creation funding, which is about 518,000. And developer agreement, City of Johnston, Iowa DOT, that would, if everything else laid out perfectly, which I'll tell you right now, every number on this paper on this slide is wrong. It's our best estimate at this point, except for the funding that we've procured already, or the city has. But that would leave 4.9 million for the rest of the developer and the city and the DOT. That wraps up my presentation. I would open it up to questions. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Mayor, I have a question. What does funding secured mean to you?
It's been approved from the controlling agency that you apply through. So in the instance of STBG, the MPO has approved 3.4 million.
But the money isn't in a bank account somewhere.
That I don't know.
I guess what I'm saying is there's no secured funding in these days, unless it's in your bank account, and even then it can be
Yeah,
taken back.
that's fair.
Correct?
It's been awarded to the project. Secured is different. I get it. Yep. So it's not in the city's coffers yet, but it's anticipated to be in the city's coffers.
Okay, thank you.
And all of those sources are reimbursement, so we spend the money, show that we've spent the money, and then they reimburse us. So that money will never be in our bank account until we've spent money to get it there, that's how all federal transportation dollars generally work, so.
I just, in today's environment with funding, research, universities, projects, I think we all understand that it could be taken back.
Do you mind if I ask a question? So that map that you're showing me, so I'm trying to understand that. I'm not a transportation engineer, but I'm just an engineer. So when you go up north, you exit out of that yellow line, right?
You want me to go back to the larger?
Yeah, can you go back to the upper one more? Or you can expand that if you like.
So you're wondering about this movement
So
coming out?
let me try this. Going up north here, this is the exit out here. Yes. And you're taking a west. So how do you control traffic between this point and this point?
It should be a free-flowing roundabout type scenario, except the roundabout, instead of a circle, it's been stretched out. So there are segments
Okay.
between the two.
When you're waiting and you still the north-south traffic is still going.
Yes,
So that means that person trying to cross over has to wait to make that turn. How different is it from right now when you're making a left or right turn with that Timber Ridge or whatever lanes are there?
so there currently is one grade crossing on the median. I think it's a Timber Ridge, but Timber Brook doesn't, or did I get that backwards? It's one or the other, but one of them doesn't, it prohibits a northbound left turn into the street. This would provide access for all of the residential developments, albeit going through a little bit further north, but it's a continuous roundabout, so you can get off of the highway and traffic should not queue or back up onto the ramp waiting to get off. And then this local connector comes down here and connects into the residential developments.
Right, yeah, I get all this point. I was just trying to see on 141, when you're trying to cross over from east to west or west to east, we still need to cross that whole 141. And you still need to wait for, that's not an overhead bridge.
It'll be a grade over. So the roundabout will sit above 141, like a normal interchange would. Yeah, grade separated. I'm sorry, I didn't.
That was my
clarify
question.
that.
I was trying to wonder, it can't be like, it has to be overhead.
Yeah.
That's all right, thank you.
Yeah. And I failed to mention too, along the north side of relocated Towner, which is the primary east-west route, we are planning to do a 10-foot wide pedestrian bike trail. And so that would cross like it normally would for a roundabout intersection. So you only have to cross one direction at a time, get into the center island in a refuge area, and then cross the second direction.
Where was that? I'm sorry, I was going to ask that exact question. Show me where how you're going to bring bicycles across.
This actually shows it. So this right here represents the trail. Cross, come up here, cross, go across the bridge, then cross again, and then back up to Towner.
I know that I got a couple questions. One, is any landscaping included in any of these budgets?
They are included in the budget from the standpoint of construction, but not with the plan, not with the planning document that we're doing right now.
But there is a line item somewhere that's going to purchase trees, et cetera.
Yeah, we don't have a specific line item, but we do have a 25% contingency, which at this level, we usually have stuff like that folded into that contingency amount.
Okay.
And I would anticipate when we get into design, when we talk about meeting with the project management team, what that streetscape or that planning plan looks like would be determined at that time and discussed in detail.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
Just to make sure I get my bearings, Mayor, I hope you don't mind if I ask
No,
this.
go ahead.
On the slide that you have up, that red line right there, is that delineating county versus city?
Oh, this right here,
Yes,
that is actually the environmental study area
okay,
that we're looking at for the interchange footprint.
okay. What's the maximum number of cars that a roundabout can handle?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure I can answer that because we design, like for instance, I'll pick on this movement right here, this bypass lane. If there's a heavy movement like that would be anticipated in the future if that's redeveloped, we can do things like that to add capacity to the roundabout itself. But multi-lane roundabouts, like 2-lane roundabouts, you might be in the 30 to 40,000 vehicles a day. Depends on the timing and the peak movements and all of that. So a single lane roundabout is less, much less. But when you add lanes to a roundabout, it goes up quite a bit. So this would handle the future traffic.
I would note in Cedar Falls, there's a Dogbone roundabout interchange very similar to this on University Avenue and Highway 58. That one goes underneath the highway, but designed the same way with the Dogbone roundabout. And, you know, that's a couple blocks from you and I and a lot of traffic, and the traffic flows through there really smooth. So it feeds, the commercial area on one side and the university on the other. It's a heavy corridor, and there's a trail. The circumstances are very, very similar to what we're talking about here, and a lot of traffic.
I will say the footprint of this is very similar to that one. So if you go to Google Earth and look at it, you'll see how that lays out.
And that is spec'd out to be, in essence, a 4-lane bridge, right? 2 in each direction?
Correct.
Okay. With some sort of median or spacing in between those kind of eastbound, westbound lanes?
Yeah, there's a median in between.
Okay.
I think it's only 3 lanes, right? Single eastbound.
Okay, 2 westbound, 1 eastbound?
Initially, yeah.
Okay.
But it's wide enough that it could have 2 lanes eastbound as well. Other questions, council? Well, Wade, I want to thank you and your team at Snyder and Associates. I know you've had a lot of public meetings on this, and you've met with property owners individually, even outside of those public meetings. Not all the conversations have been easy, but you've always impressed me on how cool you've been, how calm you've been, how you've just worked with them to provide the information and work with them. So appreciate all your good work on this. You bet.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
You're good.
Okay. Any other city council staff comments, Mike?
I have a couple quick updates. First of all, with the fire chief search is well underway. We are down to 2 candidates. So next week on Thursday, the 29th, we'll hold a community open house for the 2 candidates at 5:30 at Crown Point. So mayor and council and the public are welcome to that. And then the morning of May 30th, fire board members, some department heads from the 2 communities will meet to interview the 2 candidates, and hopefully we will be in a position that we can make an offer depending on the interviews. The 2 candidates, for everyone's awareness, is Percy Coleman. He serves currently as the Assistant Fire Chief in Des Moines since 2017. He's been a member of that department for 28 years. And then Eric Nurnberg, he's a 24-year veteran of the Iowa City Fire Department, and he served as the Deputy Fire Chief since 2017. So I think two really good candidates we'll be interviewing, and we look forward to that. One other quick update. I know Dave sent this out to the mayor and council, but just for the public's awareness, the Census Bureau has indicated that they're going to proceed with a special census. Our new census date is August 19th. Just for perspective, April 15th was our previous special census date. So we'll be working up and doing that work. I just really want to put a thank you to Dave for keeping that project moving forward, really working with Senator Grassley and Congressman Nunn's office to raise our concerns due to the hiring freeze that occurred. So just really good teamwork by all. So that's my updates today. Thank you.
Mike, did you say there was a public interview time?
Yep, so it'll be
Or
a public
meeting-
meet and greet.
When
And
is
that'll be 5:30 on the 29th at Crown Point.
At Crown Point, okay.
Yep, Thursday the 29th.
You said they like.
We can do that. Yep.
I'll just add that communications will be sending out
Oh, okay.
invitations tomorrow.
Thanks for that.
Anything else under staff communications? Seeing none, city council comments. Councilman Evans.
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, I have a couple of things to add, but I'm going to leave the cricket part to you to add.
Okay.
You with that. So the other part is that this weekend, there's a celebration festival celebrating Asian culture in the downtown Des Moines area near the Papa John sculpture, everything Asian. And this is also the 50th year when the former governor, Robert Ray, am I saying right? Robert Ray, he invited the Asian community to come and settle up in the Des Moines area. So this has been celebrated as a really bigger event this year. So I urge you all to come by and celebrate, and really good food and really good dances. So come by and enjoy this Friday and Saturday between 10, I believe 11 and 10, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Just free parking up in the Nationwide building. And I will send you out that little flyer I have so we can actually have everybody.
And what time is the neoclassical Indian dancer going to
I've
perform?
not received that program yet, but I'll let you know as soon as I
Yeah,
receive the whole
include that in the
programs.
information.
Yes, I'll do that. That's all I have.
Councilman Burkhart.
A couple of things real quickly. One, congratulations to all the Johnston graduates. By the time we next convene, we will have a whole new flock of JHS grads, and I'm so proud of each one of them for accomplishing that. But that also means that by the next time we meet, there will be the end of school year. So I implore all of you and certainly the general public to keep your eyes and ears peeled as you see a lot more kids enjoying warmer temps and hanging out and running and doing all the fun summer things that they're doing. Let's keep them safe. I also do want to take just a moment. I had an opportunity, I don't know if any of the rest of you had the time to go tour the new airport terminal. Last week, they put on quite a tour. I wore more PPE than I think I ever have in a construction environment ever. Fancy helmets and gloves even, and safety glasses. And it was well worth donning all of that equipment to be able to see the new terminal. The new terminal at the airport will add initially 6 new gates. To put it in perspective, between terminals A and C, the existing gate, or the existing terminals, there are 13 gates. However, they are also beginning 2 additional gates, and later this month or early next month, they're putting out to bid 3 additional gates. So there will ultimately be 11 new gates. The first, however, 8 of them should be completed in early 2027. Up to this point in time, the construction has impacted very slightly travelers. Starting next month, they hope to be able to open the parking garage and expand the amount of parking nearby the terminals considerably, over 1,100 more spots, in fact, with regard to that. And that's going to be a very strong welcome to all the travel that's happening, and especially during the summer. But what also is happening, and I think it's worth noting, and they wanted, and that was, I think, one of the key reasons they wanted as many electeds and partners there as possible, is because while up to this point, about halfway through this project, we haven't had a lot of implications or difficulties maneuvering when it comes to travelers, it's gonna start changing. One of the things that they indicated is that they currently have kind of 2 exits and entrances to the terminals or to those gates from the main runways. Because of the changes, groundwork that they're going to have to do and things along those lines, they're going to narrow down to 1 entrance and exit from the runways, which means that it may be a little slower to taxi in and out of those terminals. The other thing is that they are pouring a de-icing pad, and no longer will, during the construction of that, will planes be able to kind of pass each other even as they're taxiing in or taxiing out. So they anticipate that there's going to be some delays just getting to a gate. Something that I also didn't know is that they currently have to shuttle or ferry planes to parking spots off gate in the evening. They currently handle anywhere between 18 and 22 planes a night that will stay and spend the night at the airport. And as you recall, there's only 13 gates currently active and available. And so consequently, they're already having to juggle planes and get them into parking and staging positions. And as I also learned, that's done by the airlines, not by the airport authority. So if an airline has multiple planes coming in, all within tight timeframes, they'll try to get them to a gate, but then it's up to the airline, obviously, to unload the passengers and the baggage and get those planes cleaned, and then tug them someplace else if that's not where its overnight location is going to be. All of which is going to take additional time. So the ask to all of you is to share with everyone you know who's flying in and out for the next year plus, until we open up this new terminal, is patience. I think we're all going to need it. I think the outcome is going to be amazing. A couple other things, though, that they're going to try to do, because they're going to be releasing and changing even some of the traffic flow on the land side. In other words, for drop-off and for pickup, starting in June, they're going to offer 3 free hours of parking in those parking garages because they want less traffic flow at curbside. So whatever you can do to reduce the amount of curbside traffic, please do it. And that includes using the cell phone lots when you're going to pick up somebody, and waiting until the passenger actually has their bag before going through there. And then also even checking their website, because they're going to continue to update their website now, not only with regard to when the plane lands, but more importantly, when the plane gets to the gate and things like that. So those who are picking up and dropping off can better monitor that entire situation. So the growing pains, I hope, are going to be worth it, but patience is what we're asked. So great visit. I got a chance to tour with 2 city council members from Des Moines, and I can tell you, boy, is it good to be from Johnston. The things that we get to address and the types of decisions that we get to make are spectacular in serving our residents. And I don't envy the decisions that they have to make. So with that, I yield.
Martin.
I just have one thing, and I see Holly's in the audience. I'm on the, I can never remember if it's Art Council or Art Board, and there was a discussion about the Art in the Barn, which is a fundraiser for the Library Foundation, and that maybe the Art Council and the Art and the Foundation could combine together on an event. And we had a meeting, and it was a great meeting, but the foundation has decided to take a step back and do a little bit more thought and planning and how to organize. And I think it's fine, it's great. In some ways, I think we try and push to get events done and raise money. We tend to use the same volunteers over and over again. And it's always difficult to rely on the same people who do the hard work of these events. Anyway, so if you guys had heard that about us combining together on an event, it's not going to happen at least this year. Is that correct?
That is correct. We've had a couple foundation board members that have had some exciting new adventures in their lives. So they are stepping down from the board as they move on to new adventures, and we just did not feel that it was a good time to try to bring on new board members and plan a big combined revision event at the same time. So we just wanted to put a pause on that while we rebuild the foundation.
And the Art Council has lost one, and we might lose another of our members. And so, again, we need some fresh blood out there. Maybe some new retired Ds. We need something. Thanks. That's all I had.
Thank you. Just a couple of things to bring to your attention. First of all, if you haven't, Councilman Reddy alluded to this, but if you've never witnessed a cricket game, you need to do that, particularly in light of the fact that we're going to be building a cricket field here in Johnston. We had the opportunity to go out and watch a tournament this past weekend. The International Cricket Association, kind of the Midwest organization, hosted a tournament against the Iowa players against the Minnesota players. I don't know what the outcome of the games were. I'm hoping that the Iowa teams won, but I didn't stay for the end. I was quite impressed by the fact that Councilman Reddy, I did not know this, but he played cricket in college. And he has quite a pitching arm, which he showed off by throwing out the first pitch for the first game. So really impressive. So go out on my Facebook and take a look at that picture. I caught him in action. So anyway, a couple of other things. Councilman Burkhart, you mentioned graduation coming up. I forwarded to all of you the notice that I received from the school on the Dragon Day event that they're going to have on Thursday of this week at 9:15. It lasts a half an hour, but if you've never been to that, that's kind of a fun thing as well, because what they do is they invite all the seniors to gather in the cafeteria, and they walk around with these signs about what they're planning to do in the next stages of their lives. And so it's a great opportunity to just chat with them and encourage them and congratulate them on their graduation. So a neat event if you have time for that. And then I would also note that there's a couple of events coming up at Camp Dodge in the next week and a half. On Thursday as well, there's the Command Retreat, which is an annual event that they put on that invites the community to come out and observe them, recognizing soldiers that have been outstanding in their performance. It's a real, what do I want to say, ceremonial event, and it's if we have a nice day, it's real nice to be sitting out there in the former pool area and to participate in that. But probably more importantly, next Wednesday at, I think it's 2 o'clock if I'm looking at it correctly, 3 o'clock, there'll be a guard send-off at Camp Dodge. And we have about 1,800 soldiers that are going over to the Mideast for a year. And so it's great when the public turns out for that and shows support for our guardsmen as they are going off for a year away from their families and friends and serving us in those capacities. So just want to bring those things to your attention. And then of course we have Movies in the Yard coming up on Friday, and hopefully we have nice weather for that. It'll be the first for the season. We've got all kinds of family fun activities planned prior to that. So never a dull moment in Johnston. So with that, do we have anything else to come before the council this evening? If not, we are adjourned. Thanks all.